You've probably seen this comparison before, and this comparison, but you might not have seen this comparison. Some may consider these apples and oranges. They are indeed pretty different, but they each represent a glimpse into where the industry might be headed. Now let's cut to the chase here and say that the winner of the best logo goes to Svelte by about a mile. Now that we have the important stuff out of the way, let's dive into some details. Svelte is a front-end JavaScript framework well known for increasing productivity by eliminating as much boilerplate code as possible. It's also unique in that instead of being a JavaScript library, it's actually a compilation tool that compiles your code to vanilla JavaScript. Yew is the most well-known web framework for writing front-ends in the Rust programming language. Since Rust can be compiled to WebAssembly, and WebAssembly support in browsers has been ubiquitous only since the late 2010s, this is a fairly new approach to front-end development that is still in the extremely early stages. Let's take a closer look at each framework and identify where each of them shines. At the end, we'll make a recommendation as to which framework is the best option in most cases. To create a Yew application, first run cargo install trunk, then rust up target add wasm32 unknown, then cargo new Yew app, and then cd into the app, then add the Yew dependency to the cargo.toml file, add a little bit of boilerplate code to main.rs, add an index.html to the project, and then run trunk serve -- open. Now you have a starting point for your Yew application. To create a new app with Svelte, first run npm init svelte my-app. If you choose SvelteKit, you'll get a full stack development environment with hot reloading whenever you make changes. cd into the directory, then run npm install and npm run dev. To create a new component in Yew, first create a struct with the fields you'd like your component to take as properties. Then use the function component macro, specifying the component name in the parentheses. Create a function that takes a borrowed reference to the properties struct and returns an HTML type. Then use the HTML macro to dictate how the component appears using an HTML-like syntax. Use the component by referencing it in an HTML tag, passing in props using attributes that match the field names from the prop struct you created. To create a component in Svelte, create a file with a .svelte file extension. Put all of your JavaScript or TypeScript in a script tag and all of your CSS in a style tag. Then put your HTML markup outside of those tags. In the script tag, you can convey that a variable is passed in as a prop by prefixing its declaration with the word export. Use your new component by referencing it as an HTML tag, passing in props using the variable names you prefixed with export. To set up routing in Yew, first create a route enum with a value for each route. Then write a switch function that takes a route reference parameter and returns the HTML node representing that route. Finally, in the root component of the app, create a browser router component with a switch component inside of that, referencing the switch function that you created. In case you got lost, here's a diagram of how that works. When using SvelteKit, setting up routes is almost effortless. The directory tree inside the routes directory represents your app's routes. Path parameters can be enclosed in brackets and file names. So if you want to route /b/blogid, simply make a file called blogid.svelte inside a directory called b in the routes directory. That's it. The framework takes care of everything else for you. That's how some common things are done in each framework. Now, in what areas do each of these frameworks shine? In terms of productivity, it's not even close. Svelte is a clear winner. It eliminates most boilerplate code and simplifies things by using convention over configuration. On top of that, SvelteKit makes it incredibly easy to build a whole full-stack app in one project. In terms of code correctness and defect prevention, Yew is the winner. Not because of the framework necessarily, but because of the Rust language itself. It'll ensure that you never attempt to read a variable or field that doesn't exist, among other things. Now, there's tooling in the JavaScript ecosystem that can help with that, but you can't quite get the strict guarantees that you get with Rust. In terms of performance, things get a little tricky. WebAssembly is here because it's supposed to be faster than JavaScript, but at the time this video is being made, DOM operations from WebAssembly are slower than from JavaScript, and network requests to the backend must use JavaScript under the hood. This is predicted to change in the future, but for now, this is a big damper on WebAssembly's performance advantage. If your application's performance bottlenecks exist outside of DOM manipulations, though, WebAssembly will likely be significantly more performant. Though you can use a JavaScript framework and invoke WebAssembly for the computationally intensive parts, using Yew might be nicer because then you don't have to use two different languages and deal with the interaction between them. Okay, so after all this, of the two frameworks, which should the vast majority of people use for building an app now? It's Svelte, hands down. It strips away much of the mundane aspects of front-end development, and even full-stack development if you're using SvelteKit. Again, that's for the majority of people, not everyone. Yew can be a compelling option if you have performance-critical logic that must be written in WebAssembly, or if you're forward-looking and are confident that the DOM operations from WebAssembly will receive a performance boost at some point, or if you see the Rust language as being a key component in defect prevention. Some events that will have a big impact on this landscape are, like I mentioned, improving the performance of DOM manipulations from WebAssembly. The other might be the introduction of a Svelte-like framework built on Rust. Now that would be a game changer. Of course, Yew isn't the only Rust front-end framework. Let me know if there are any others you think deserve attention. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.